On this edition of Uplink, visit the northern Italian town of Nove and discover the art of ceramics. Meet the personnel from the 40th Communications Group high atop Mount Corna. Escape to the beautiful island of Malta, where a splendid mixture of old and new lies at the center of the Mediterranean. And find out about upcoming movies, returning programs, and what's hot in sports on SEB television for the month of May. It's all next on Uplink.
Welcome to Uplink. I'm Air Force Sergeant Rolla Suttmiller. We're in Nove, Italy. It's a small town in the northern part of the country, about 15 miles from Vicenza. Like many Italian towns famous for their own regional specialties, Nove is famous for its own handcrafted ceramics. Each factory specializes in their own designs and creations and are able to please many different tastes: Baroque, Renaissance, folkloric, and some factories, like the one we'll visit today, cater specifically to the American tastes. All of the ceramics in this factory actually have their beginnings in 4 other countries. Clay from France, Germany, Czechoslovakia, and England is imported and mixed on the premises. Like a secret recipe for tomato sauce or wine handed down over the generations, each factory uses their own carefully guarded combination of clay. The exact recipe is known only to the owners and the clay artisan. After 22 hours of stirring, mixing, churning, and compression, the clay is ready to be molded. Many countries throughout the Mediterranean have ceramics special to their area. Ceramic collectors can find many variations and styles unique to each region they visit. In our first story, we'll visit the island of Malta, where ceramics, pottery, and glassworks are part of its ancient and modern-day history. Army Sergeant Brady Shoemaker takes us to the island chain just in time for planning a springtime getaway.
Malta, a collection of islands that lie in the center of the Mediterranean. A nearby vacation spot for the free-spirited adventurer. It's easy to get to Malta from Sicily by ferry or air. Once on the islands, take a tour of one of their beautiful and magnificent sights, like the Blue Grotto. The grotto view is breathtaking from a far hill, but you can also take boat tours around the rock formations. If you want to delve into the history and prehistory of Malta, try the caves of Ardalam. Here, fossilized remains of dwarved elephants, hippopotamus, and red deer have made their footprint on the past. Today, Malta's capital city is Valletta. At one time, the island capital was named Medina. The influence of Medina's architecture was expressed through Norman and Arab design. The Knights of St. John, however, decided to build a bigger city, which would be more defendable against foreign enemies. So it was that Medina became the Silent City, and Valletta is Malta's current capital.
Well, the Knights actually decided to build a bigger town, which in fact they have built it Valletta, which in present time is the capital of Malta. They built it to protect the island from any attacks of the Turks. So the Knights from Medina as well moved to Valletta.
For anyone venturing through the streets of Valletta, the walls around the city are hard to miss. These parapets have been a stronghold against a year-long siege in 1565 and the bombing of Italian and German air forces during World War II. In Valletta's city center, the Grand Master's Palace is well worth seeing. The palace now serves as a presidential palace. One of the more spectacular scenes of Malta is the Grand Harbor. This splendid mixture of old and new has also proven to be the island's greatest asset. The dry dock has been modernized to provide repairs to any type of ship. The harbor includes a naval arsenal and coastal fortifications, bringing the traveler back to the bygone days of battle. Another historic attraction of Malta is the parish church of Mosta. The dome was built between 1833 and 1860 as an intended replica of Rome's Pantheon. If you want to get away from the tourist scene for a while, try shopping. All of the shops in Valletta take Visa, MasterCard, and traveler's checks. The island currency is Maltese lira or pounds. The exchange rate for dollars and Italian lira is about the same, But you might want to get some Maltese currency before you go to the island, because banks are the only place you can use dollars or Italian lira. If you need a place to stay, consider the town of Slima St. Julian. The town offers hotels, restaurants, beaches, and places of entertainment. Cruises around Malta are available at Slima Creek. The development of art in Malta is seen through their quality blown glass, filigree work, pottery, polished stones, lace making, and ironworks. Whatever your reason for getting away, history, art, shopping, or a place to relax, the Isles of Malta are waiting for you. I'm Army Sergeant Brady Shoemaker for Uplink.
We're at Nove inside a ceramics factory. This particular factory was established in 1946. 120 employees work together every day to create thousands of ceramic pieces each year. The factory has over 12,000 molds in stock, each one more beautiful than the next. Each piece is individually molded. Depending on the strength required for the piece, either liquid clay is poured into the mold or compressed clay is steamed between two. Flat items such as platters, plates, and shallow bowls are pressed, while curved shapes are poured into upright molds. After sitting for a few hours or even overnight, each piece is unmolded by hand, trimmed of any rough edges, and set to dry. Because water is a vital part of the clay's composition, each piece must dry until the majority of the water evaporates. Depending on the size of the piece, this process can take anywhere from 1 hour to 8 days. Once dry, the ceramics are shelved on brick trays and rolled into the kiln. For 24 hours, the ceramics bake, the temperatures rising slowly to over 2,000 degrees. This will ensure no cracks or breaks in the baking process. If you think 2,000-degree kilns sound hot, just wait until you hear the SEB television lineup for the month of May. From movies to family specials, and as always, a full lineup of sports, there's a little something for everyone. Here's Air Force Sergeant Larry Kreider with a look. Now come to the most creative, imaginative, and definitely the most colorful part of the ceramics creation. This is the area of the factory set aside for the painting process. The work tables are covered with bowls of paint, brushes, and pottery, each one waiting to be splashed with color. Each piece is hand-painted under natural sunlight streaming in from nearby windows. Skilled artisans add the delicate brush strokes to the pieces, bringing them to life. A flower, a leaf, or maybe an animal or vegetable can transform the white clay into a decorative piece of art. As you've seen, the process to create what appears to be a simple piece of ceramics is actually quite involved. Many tasks that we perform each day seem simple, but would not be possible without the equipment and the people who maintain it. In our next story, we'll meet the personnel from the 40th Communications Group at Mount Corna. It's their job to ensure all Autovan, Telex, and data communications for all of Italy. The biggest part of their job is just maintaining the unmanned mountain sites that get all the calls through. Last month, Air Force Sergeant Mike Hartman went to Mount Corna and climbed the mountain.
The snow wasn't expected, at least not this much. And as we headed to the rendezvous point, there was little sign of it letting up. Our guide and translator, NCOIC of Power Production for Det 1, Staff Sergeant John Thomas, didn't hold out much hope for the day's plans, since it all hinged on taking a helicopter to the peak, 7,000 plus meters, straight up. The tech control unit at Corna had detected a minor malfunction on Chima, but the biggest problem was that a check at our next stop was dependent on Todd and Don getting to the site.
We also have 6 months backlog of preventive maintenance to accomplish on the equipment there. We haven't been able to get up there due to a broken ski lift. We're now trying to get up using a helicopter. The hill is at about a 40-degree angle, so the helicopter will be setting its skids down on the hill to be as stable as possible, and we'll then jump from the side of the helicopter and walk up the side of the hill to the site.
With the mountain barely visible, it's doubtful whether Todd or Don will be going anywhere near Cimagallina in the next few days. A short time later, the mission was scrubbed. The next objective, the town of Ondola and Mount Paganella. The early arrival afforded us an opportunity to look around this quaint ski village and a break in the clouds offered a glimpse of the next day's destination, or at least the first stop. A ski lift would carry us and the equipment to within a half mile of the com site, where we would then finish on foot. But the next day, well, we did want snow. We're about to attempt to go up on Mount Paganella. We'll be going halfway up on the enclosed cable cars. The rest of the way, it's going to be open ski lift. Then, we have to find the site. Staff Sergeant Victor Perez of Wideband Maintenance and Airman First Class Martin Doguet of Power Production wasted no time getting their gear to the lift while we maneuvered our own equipment toward the platform. Perhaps the hardest part of these trips is the hauling of equipment, food and other belongings in and out of ski lifts and across open areas when other transportation isn't available. The trip up, a little shaky due to the wind, but a storybook winter wonderland. At the top, the kind of scenery people flock to Europe to see. After reaching the halfway point, the wind and snow is just too bad to take the open chairlift. So we're going to go the rest of the way with the equipment in the vehicles. When transportation is available, snowcats sure beat walking in waist-deep snow, and although 3 in a cabin was a little cramped, it would have taken the rest of the day to get ourselves to the site. Mount Paganella has a manned Italian Air Force weather station, along with several towers, for a variety of communication services. Our site lies on the far side of a land bridge obscured by the snow. A false step, one way or the other, and SEB is going to be short a camera, hence the motorized escort. How tough could it be when it's this clear? Well, it isn't how clear it is, it's how long it stays clear. In only seconds, a cloud could roll in, and you could easily lose sight of where you're going. Finally, we arrive, and John, Vic, and Martin set right to work unloading the cats so they can get on their way. Once inside, it's like coming home after a long vacation, making sure everything is in working order and getting settled back in. Mount Corna and all the unmanned sites are on commercial power, and a failure would eliminate the radios from transmitting our calls. Since our communication needs are so critical, there are 3 backup systems to supply power automatically should commercial fail. 2 generators, and if necessary, a bank of 24 batteries. Part of this PMI is to ensure that those backups will kick in. We left Vic and Martin to press on with their work. They'll put in long days here and more than a few nights. We headed outdoors to catch our ride back to the lift that would take us down Mount Paganella. That behind us, we turned south to the town of Sestola at the foot of Mount Cimone. And the next morning, another battle with the elements. Today's trip starts here at Pani del Falco, which stands for the Falcon's Nest. As you can see, the scenery's not going to be that great because we're up in a cloud. Hopefully we'll get something up at the site. But this trip had a twist. After leaving the skiers behind, it's a blustery stroll to this building on the final rise of the mountain. For the last leg of this journey, it's a couple of thousand steps, or this mining car, more than 800 meters into and up the final rise of Cimone. At the top, we met Sergeants David Lewick and Ed Walsh, power and wideband radio respectively, as they unloaded the car and checked in. A maze of tunnels and an elevator or two finally get us to the American site, where the PMI begins again. Down in the power room, Dave gets right after that second backup generator, since there's a chance we may get it all done in just a few hours. Keep in mind that if equipment breaks down, no matter how big it is, it has to be hauled up here fast, or a big link in our communication system just doesn't function. If you can barely see that chapel behind us, it's built by some mountain climbers at the very top of Mount Cimone. 28 days a month, personnel from Mount Corna are on the road making these checks in all kinds of conditions. When Det 1 40th Com Group offered us this story, they wanted us to see just how tough a job it is keeping these sites going. And this trip was pretty routine. But it isn't all staying in hotels, wearing civilian clothes, and looking at the scenery. It's an important job making sure your calls go through. For Uplink, Air Force Sergeant Mike Hartman.
We're back at Nove, and I'm inside of a ceramics factory showroom. This particular showroom ships over 50% of its merchandise to the United States. Macy's, Spiegel's, Bloomingdale's, Neiman Marcus, that's just a few from their long list of reputable customers that they've established over the years. 2 or 3 times a year, the companies send their buyers to this factory, and this is where they end up, in the factory showroom, selecting items to be sold in their catalogs and department stores all across the United States. Some stores bring along their own designs, complete with color samples and size specifications, while others browse through the showroom looking for select items. Many stores request items unavailable to other companies to ensure exclusives for the season. This is the shipping department and sales store. These shelves are filled with the same ceramics you've seen throughout the show. Each time an order goes into production, the factory purposely overproduces to ensure for any breakage or slight imperfections. Once the order has been shipped, all of the excess production goes onto the shelves and is sold to customers off the street. One doesn't have to look too deep into the warehouse to find perfect pieces of pottery. Shoppers who routinely order from stateside catalogs will recognize many items. This catalog specially highlights their purchase of Nove ceramics. Through the catalog, 6 plates cost $80. The same 6 plates from the overproduction shelf are about 36 mil or $28. There you have a short tour through just one factory in Nove. There are many throughout the town, and they have similar ceramics, and you're sure to find something that you'll like when you're in the area. I'm Air Force Sergeant Rolla Suttmiller. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Tune in again next month for another edition of Uplink.